When did you realize your family wasn't normal? The day my dad revealed that he expected me to marry my own cousin so we could pass on our family's blue eyes. Dad had always been obsessed with our family's eyes, which he called our genetic gift. He came from a long line of geneticists who believed our perfect eye color made us superior. Dad kept detailed family trees in his study with each relative's eye color down to the hex code. And ever since I was a kid, he'd gone on and on about how my eyes were almost perfect. The closest yet. To make them actually perfect, he made me stare at the sun for 10 seconds because he thought it might enhance the blue. When I cried from the pain, he said tears were just weakness leaving the genome. When that didn't work, Dad lectured me constantly saying things like, your children will either be genetic gods or muddy-eyed failures depending on who you breed with. He homeschooled me specifically to avoid contamination from lesser humans and filled my education with eugenics theories disguised as family history lessons. When I turned 15, Dad sat me down with genetic charts and family breeding records going back centuries. He explained that my cousin Kevin had been selected as my breeding partner because, aside from me, he had the bluest eyes my dad had ever seen. Kevin, who I'd known since I was born and used to play with in the sandbox. Kevin, who once put an olive up his nose at a family dinner and it got stuck. Kevin, my cousin. But Dad had already arranged everything with Kevin's parents and expected us to begin trying for children, sooner rather than later, while your eggs are at their peak. He said, you and Kevin will create a baby with the most stunning eyes the world has ever seen, the next generation of genetic perfection. And after that, there was no arguing with him. Living under this genetic breeding mandate felt like being a laboratory specimen instead of a human being. Dad monitored my health obsessively and restricted my diet to optimize my reproductive potential for Kevin. He brought Kevin around constantly for supervised visits, where they discussed our future breeding like we were prize livestock. The worst part was that Kevin seemed completely brainwashed and actually looked forward to our arranged breeding partnership. During one particularly disturbing dinner, Kevin turned to me and said, I can't wait to see how the world reacts to our perfect blue-eyed babies, while Dad nodded proudly. Dad had groomed both of us from childhood to believe that preserving our photographic memory gene was our sacred duty, but it seemed Kevin had actually believed it. Well, not me. I was getting out. When I turned 17, I secretly applied to colleges across the country and got accepted to a good school with a full scholarship. I planned to escape and never return to Dad's genetic breeding program, and that's exactly what I did. Those 3 months at college were the first time I'd ever chosen what to eat, who to talk to. I joined clubs Dad would have forbidden, ate junk food. For 3 incredible months, I was just a normal college student, not a breeding specimen. But then the dean called me into his office. My father was there, and he was trying to claim that I was mentally unwell and he needed to pull me out of school. He'd even brought Kevin with him, and they both testified that I needed to come home and be in a safe environment. They said I was fragile and needed their supervision. But the campus counselors got involved, and that's where Dad made his biggest mistake. After he made one too many weird comments about my appearance, they asked Dad what he meant, and he went off, explaining his genetic superiority theories in detail. He brought out his breeding charts and started lecturing blue-eyed superiority, while Kevin nodded along like a devoted cult member. She's throwing away millions of years of genetic evolution because she wants to date some brown-eyed college boy and have hideous children, Dad shouted at the counselors. Dad genuinely believed the counselors would support his scientific approach to human reproduction and became increasingly agitated when they questioned his methods. When the head counselor asked Dad what would happen if I refused to breed with a suitor of his choice, he said, like it was obvious, then she'll be bred whether she consents or not. Well, you can't say that on a college campus. He was immediately escorted to the police station where they launched an investigation into his breeding program. Turns out Dad had been arranging similar genetic partnerships for multiple family members and had detailed plans for forced reproduction if cooperation failed. Kevin got arrested alongside Dad when they found evidence of his participation in the conspiracy and his own disturbing journal entries about his fantasies of betting me, willing or not. It's been 2 years since then, and I'm completely cut off from my family, most of whom think I'm the traitor who destroyed our bloodline. Kevin and Dad are both serving time for conspiracy. I'm studying genetics myself now, and it seems like every day I get more evidence that my family was not as exceptional as Dad said. They're just exceptionally batshit